September 2020. This is about how brains are liars and you can't even trust your own wetware, I guess you could call it. Your brain, your mind, your emotions, you can't really trust them. And this could be a really big multi-part topic that has to be brought up a lot because it's a pervasive one. And it's kind of hard to talk about because, well, for one thing, there's no good information available because all of the freaks wearing lab coats on TV or in magazines or on the internet are just, first of all, they're Baphomet freaks and they're just drip feeding 1 part truth mixed with 99 part lies. So you probably have seen enough optical illusions to know that you can't trust your eyes and you can't trust your brain. And on top of illusions and the way your eyeballs work and how your brain works with your eyes, I don't even know how to get into that stuff, so maybe some other time, but you don't see a direct feed from your eyes. You do not see what's actually in front of you. You might have heard that magenta is an imaginary color. I don't know if it's true or not, but if it is true, then that's another example, but I kind of think that one's BS, but I don't know. If there's something on your mind, like if you're afraid of something or you really want to see something, your brain will put it in your vision. If you really want to get notifications on a website and you look at a computer screen, your brain's going to put a red dot in the upper right-hand corner, even if there is no red dot in real life. And if you're worried about seeing somebody wearing, I don't know, a big green hat, for instance, your brain's going to start putting a big green hat in your peripheral vision, even though there isn't one in your vision at the time. And there have been times in my life when I guess I could say I was drunk on emotions like rage or desperate optimism, where basically I guess I just deluded myself or I got overly worked up. Like, these are two opposite emotions, like extreme rage and some desperate attempt at forcing joy. Like, this is a hard thing to talk about because I don't have the words and the concepts are very strange, and that in itself raises questions about word deletion because 1984, the Orwell book 1984, talks a lot about deleting words from the lexicon. And whenever I try to describe something or talk about something but I don't have the words, I wonder, were there words in the English language that have been deleted? I don't know. Because another thing is memory holing, and one of the reasons why we just get bombarded with bullshit news just constantly, that is real life thread sliding. And when they're constantly updating whatever's in your current consciousness or awareness, they're hoping that they can slide out some old memories or distract you from remembering. And I do think that flickering lights are addictive, and now everyone is staring at their phone all the time. I don't have one of those. So, but, I can get addicted to flickering screens, and it would be worse if I had a smartphone. So, I just don't really know what's going on, and I lack the words to describe concepts that I don't fully understand. Another thing is, well, denial is a big one. Like, denial of how bad things are, or just trying to make yourself believe something that isn't true because the truth is painful. And I don't really know how to describe these either, except for the alcoholism one, where at the time, probably during the worst of it, I was just telling myself it's not that bad. I was used to it, and it was just a normal, semi-frequent thing for me. And every moment I was sober, I just wanted to be drunk because I hated everything. My state of mind, how upset I was, the world. If I were to even try and get into all of that, I would be here for all eternity just talking about bullshit. So it was the worst part of my life, but at the time, I thought alcohol was my friend. It was all I could think about, and I was in denial of how bad it was, and today, when I look back, the same memories have a new angle to them. At the time, I didn't feel the pain. I didn't feel the poisoned sensation. I downplayed how horrible the hangovers were. But when I look back, I remember the pain. I remember the poisoned sensation. I remember the hangovers. So I don't know how to describe that exactly. It's some angle thing. And speaking of angles, well, you can make, for instance, a diorama of just objects. Set up some box on a table and fill it up with objects and close the top and light it up inside and look in through a viewfinder. And you're only going to see a few things, but you're not going to see everything you put in the box because some objects will be behind other objects, or transparent objects that are overlapping will create some optical effect. That's a kind of a flimsy example of points of view. You can hide a very important small object underneath a towel and out of sight, out of mind. I don't really even know exactly how to talk about this stuff. There is no real information about it. And now I remember in the past I was very interested in what are dreams objectively. All I could find was what were called dream dictionaries, and they were just bullshit. Oh, and here's a very common thing. In all of these really popular at the time dream dictionaries, water represented sexuality, and pregnancy represented an idea you wanted to share with the world. So water was sexual, and pregnancy was not sexual in these dream dictionaries. And there was just some more bullshit. And it was also very generic and based on extremely shallow current mythology. If you saw an owl in your dream, the dictionary would say that, oh, you're looking for guidance, and the owl represents a spirit of wisdom. That's just some, surface level animal symbolism. Owls are not really even all that smart. My personal thought about owl symbolism is that owls are active at night, and they fly silently, and that's it. They're not intelligent. They're just silent and active during the night. And that's all that the freaks need. They're not smart. They shoot themselves in the foot all the time. But they go under the radar, and they do everything in the darkness, where you can't see them, out of sight, out of mind. But I had more of a coherent idea in my head, but now that I'm actually trying to talk about it, I realize that it's actually hard, because I don't really know what to say. This one is about how being competitive is encouraged by society, but it does not make the world a better place. You'll remember, probably beginning at kindergarten or some early grade like that teachers, I don't know if they were doing it on their own or if it was a curriculum and they're being forced to do it, but they would set up these contests, and there's always going to be a winner and second and third, and then just a bunch of losers. And, sports, I guess they're fun in the moment. They're exhilarating, and they're fun to play, I guess. I don't understand sports fans, though. They're just watching and they're going absolutely insane, so I don't get that part. But there is this out-of-control obsession, I think, all over the world about competition. And I don't know a whole lot about how companies function, but they're satanic. They will just buy really, really shady shit, just repackaged toxic waste. The FDA is a joke. If something's profitable, the FDA will push it out as fast as they can with minimal testing. And, then you get a sugar-free gummy bear situation when that happens. Or you get something like thalidomide, when they just rush something out without long-term testing. Although I think that the thalidomide thing, I think it might still be used on purpose to create deformed people. That's a conspiracy theory. I still see 40 or 50-year-old thalidomide babies. Well, they're not babies anymore, but you can see what happened to them. And the FDA is a joke. And a related thing is the definition for free-range livestock means the animal can turn around in their cage. I'm pretty sure in real life at factory farms, the animals cannot turn around in their cage. But if they can move their head a little bit, it gets called free range. It's just bullshit. Everything's horrible. But this is mostly about how competition is not that great. And I've tried to be competitive in the past, and all I got was burnout and physical ailments from pushing myself too hard, and I still struggle. I still feel the pain today. Like, it hurts physically. And I still have that mindset where I have to prove myself, or I have to one-up someone. I don't want to be the loser, and yet I'm so burnt out I can't even compete. And so I end up resigning myself to being the designated loser because I'm so tired I can't compete. You know what I mean? Just the whole world is obsessed with winners and losers. And here's a related thing that I just notice a lot in my culture. It's probably a worldwide thing too, I don't know. But America has an obsession with talking about pushing out leaders. What I mean by pushing out is I don't mean removing leaders, I mean creating so-called leaders. Like, there's all these supposed programs to turn students into leaders, but like, if everyone's a leader, no one is. Too many chiefs, not enough Indians. So I find that a very odd thing, but I don't really have anything more to say about it because I think I just said everything I had on that topic. You know, I do not have words today. I had some stuff planned out, and now that I'm trying to talk about it, I'm like drawing a blank here. Well, here is some good news to lift your spirits. There are more and more people, just like random people in random places, going, hey, is that person trans? Or, is that a man or a woman? Or they go, that looks like a bearded woman. Or they'll go, gee, that animal looks very strange. Or people are getting more receptive to understanding what the deal with celebrities is, but I don't know how many people are ready to accept the degree of mass transgenderism in real life. But more people are really opening up to understanding that a lot of things are hoaxes. They are willing to think about something. They're willing to try on a new state of mind. They're willing to look through a new point of view. They're willing to entertain the idea that something might be a hoax. And more people are, I guess maybe people are so bored and frustrated that they're like, okay, I don't have anything better to do, I will try on your tin hat for fun. And then they go, hey, this tin hat's actually pretty comfortable. And maybe it's that. Maybe it's just something very simple. On that note, sometimes things that seem insignificant, that you wouldn't think about them twice, they'll be very influential. A tiny thing can actually massively influence a huge thing. Now, I don't have any good examples right now, but here's a really petty one, but this one might surprise you if you haven't heard about it. Do you know why cartoon networks, well, that's the name of one, but like Cartoon Network and Nickelodeon or something like that. Okay, I never had cable, so I'm repeating something somebody else said. And I'm probably repeating it wrong because this is a memory and I haven't first-hand experience to this. Maybe it's Saturday morning cartoons on the network. I don't know. I can't remember. But there was a noticeable decline in cartoon TV shows in the 2000s. Like them being broadcast, or maybe it was some networks becoming unsuccessful. I can't remember, but... Well, there was a decline in some broadcasting of cartoon media for children, and the thing that caused it was actually divorces increasing. Whoever would have thought that television would be influenced by divorce? Because more people were getting divorced, the children were not at home watching cartoons. They were going to their mom or dad's house and doing what their parent wanted to do. Because things are different when a child's parents break up. Instead of just a very routine day that is very predictable, they like spend a week with one parent and then the next week they spend with the other parent. And instead of the child just doing what he or she wants to do, it turns into what the parent wants to do. And the parent does not want to sit around and watch cartoons, presumably because if they've had a child, they've had sex, and people that sit around watching cartoons do not have sex. Okay. But I don't have any better examples right now. But yeah, maybe there's some more economic examples of Well, okay, here's a simple one. If some fish become rare, then the restaurants are going to start charging crazy prices for that fish. Okay, that was an easy one. That wasn't totally stupid. All right, well, I'll come back when I have some words. Okay, so because I'm going to have to bring up these two topics again, because tonight things are not really working out right now, but I have to keep going. I'm just gonna talk more about what comes to mind on the topics of how brains are untrustworthy. Well, we can't even trust ourselves. We can try and be genuine, but then we might force something, and when you're forcing something, you're not being genuine. It's frustrating and maddening, and it sucks because, yeah. Anyway, I remember something about competitiveness, and this is something that a very cringy, controlled opposition individual, I don't know who they are, like, I don't know their name, but it was some cringy, no-name, small-time comedian slash public motivational speaker that would go to schools or something and do some very awkward comedy slash inspirational routine, and yeah, it was a Martin. But this is kind of interesting. This is something I remember. He talked about, he worked with a special ed class, and there was a girl with Down syndrome because Down syndrome is actually a female-only disorder. And so this special ed class was like playing some game, some racing game, not a video game, but like a physical sports game. And at some point the Downs girl says, if we all just join together, we all can win. The comedian did this impression. I think he was around these children a lot because like he did this impression of what a little Down syndrome girl would sound like. But the story he repeated was that she joined arms with her fellow people. Didn't matter the team or if they were just playing some track racing sport, but they all joined hands and just started walking casually towards the finish line. And actually now I'm reminded of, there's this old Sesame Street magazine that I got when I was like 3, and there was a page that was some kind of a little racing printed game, and you're supposed to put like pennies or buttons on these two sets of squares that formed kind of a racetrack of 2 lanes, and at the end of the square hopscotch racetrack blocks there's Big Bird holding 2 gold medals, and the instructions said, you and your friend just put your pennies or buttons on the squares and just move them forward, and then you both win. Now, what's actually sad was by the time I was like able to read, I was very cynical and very programmed by the world. By the time I might have been like 5 and I found that old thing, I was very cynical even when I was 5. And I can't put my finger on what programmed me to be that way, but, when I was 5, I'm like, that's not how races work. But it also kind of goes to show that just because a child says something, that doesn't make it right. When I was very young, I knew that there were teenage boys pretending to be women, and I knew that all of the people pretending to be men were bearded women. I knew this in my instincts. I could hear them, I could hear it in their voices, and see it in their mannerisms, but even though a part of me knew the truth, but was very confused, I still remember these lines. In kindergarten, we had to do, show tunes or something, and there was this play called Annie, Get Your Gun, and there's a song called Doing What Comes Naturally, and they mention, illiterate old people, which confused me, and there's a verse where Annie sings that her little baby brother can't even read a book, but he knows one sex from the other, all he has to do is look, and I was, 5 in kindergarten, and I'm like, I can't tell one sex from the other by looking. When I look around, I see women, and a few of them are teen boys pretending to be women. And when I look at the so-called men, all I see is bearded women. And I was just so confused, because as far as I could tell, even so-called men had boobs and they were obviously pregnant. But at the same time, I was programmed to be cynical and care about winning. And, not to the same degree that I was programmed when I was 10, because that's when they've got you. when you're 10 to 12, that's when you're in their grip, and your mind's not your own anymore. And see, I just don't know. I mean, I have these memories, and I can paraphrase things that I remember. That's all I've got. I don't really have anything else. I guess it's another reason why you can't trust your brain. It's inconsistent. And, well, another thing about dreams is I still don't know exactly how they work, but topics that are very strongly on my mind, like usually it's a desire or planning for a big change. I'll have dreams about that. Like, if I really want a blue highlighter, I'll start having dreams about digging through big boxes of blue highlighters. Or if I'm gonna have to paint a whole house, I'm gonna start having dreams about painting houses. Things like that. But sometimes in my dreams, very old memories get dug up. And when I wake up, I go, hey, I never thought about that for years. I've never thought about that for decades. And then I would just be amazed that somewhere in my memory is all this stuff I've forgotten about. So I'm just gonna have to come back some other time, and hopefully I will have something more coherent. I guess what I'm trying to say about how competitiveness and competition are probably not that great for society is, well, you know that companies are trying to put their competition out of business, and athletes will cheat or try and sabotage their opponent because they want some shiny metal that doesn't do shit. Companies cheat. Like, they'll sell you toxic waste. They will... How many stores are understaffed? How many restaurants are messy because they don't have enough people, like, wiping down tables? The place is a mess because they're trying to save money, and it just falls into disrepair. There's a lot of people that are trying to get jobs. Like, I have been not called back from so many job interviews, and next time I go to the store, they're understaffed. And it's also ridiculous that people have commented now that that McDonald's, well, okay, I think they're exaggerating, but basically their points can be boiled down to, it's like McDonald's is demanding a master's degree in whatever, just like, or McDonald's is demanding a PhD in something before they hire you to flip burgers. And, like, entry-level jobs are getting more and more ridiculous requirements, and there's just so many people looking for work and they can't get work. And yeah, and if people were just like growing their own gardens, making their own food, trading with their neighbors, just enjoying neighborhood cookouts, things would be so different. But we're trying to undercut each other or climb over each other or cheat or sabotage, and that comes from competition. And when a little Down syndrome girl figures it out that, hey, winning doesn't get you anything. Winning is pointless. Just lock arms with your neighbors and just casually walk towards the finish line and you've all won. Like, they won on a deeper way. To them it was probably just some very clever loophole, but there's a deeper angle to it when you realize that you don't have to be in a dogfight. So I'll come back some other time, and I'll try and say stuff that makes more sense. Bye. Another thing about competition is pretty much all of the big ones are rigged. Like, even small-time competitions, a person will win due to office politics or due to popularity or money. They will bribe their way to winning. And yeah, when it comes to this world, money is king. And that is how people win contests. So it just doesn't matter. Like, when you lose a contest, so what? When you win a contest, they're rigged. So that's all there is to say about that.